I think we're on.
Good evening. The microphone's working. Awesome. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Julia Fitzpatrick. I'm the president and CEO of the Paso Robles and Templeton Chamber of Commerce. I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm actually going to stand up on the stage so that everybody can see me. And then I'll be seated. Unfortunately, I have a bum knee. And 3 hours is a long time to stand. So I'm going to be seated the remainder of the event, but I will be. So I first want to, and I apologize for reading off of my phone, but I do want to sincerely thank the Paso Robles Elks Lodge for donating the Lodge banquet room for our forum tonight. The Elks support a variety of programs in our community, including scholarships, back-to-school backpacks for students, financial support for 4-H and FFAs, monthly free veterans breakfast, care packages for our local military bases, and if you are interested in learning more or becoming an elk, please see a member of the Elks Lodge, or they have a website at www.elks.org. I have many friends that are part of this association and absolutely love it. So again, welcome. Thank you for being here. There is a lot to review this evening. I want to first start off by saying that we hope that this will be a positive experience for everybody. We all love our community greatly, and that is why we're here tonight, is to be able to share the love that we all have for our community. And so we wanted to bring this forum to you, and I will emphasize the word forum. This is a forum, not a debate, because we want to be able to allow you to help educate yourself and your fellow voters on each of our candidates and why they're running, etc. So with that, there of course are some rules of engagement. So for our candidates, I guess let me back up for a moment and let you know that we are starting, of course. We're going to do two different groups this evening. They'll answer the same exact questions, but we're going to do two different groups. So we're starting with Mr. Fred Strong, District 4. Votes at this time. So the next three people that you see in front of you are all part of the District 1 race. And with that, I'm going to ask you to hold your applause until the end. We have with us Chris Beal, Linda George, Sharon Roden. And I hope we do have the name placards in front of each of our candidates, so I hope that you're able to see those. If not, please let us know. With me tonight, I have one staff person and one volunteer, and neither are present. But when they are, I'm going to point them out. Oh, there's Miss Deborah right there, and then there's Jenna. They're both hiding. Yeah. So Jenna and Deborah will be circulating the room. If you have questions, please feel free to flag either of them with any. That said, our rules of engagement for our candidates, we are going to begin with two questions. And then we are going to actually be passing around the index cards and the baskets so that you all will be able to get your questions in. Now, every question will not be asked. We actually are only going to go for roughly an hour, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll bring up our District 3 candidates so that we can hear from them as well. So we again are taking questions from the audience. Our candidates will have 1.5 to 2 minutes to respond, depending on the complexity of the question. So for the most part, we'll count on it being a minute and a half for their response time. And I will let the four of you know if otherwise, if it's a 2 minute to the complexity of the question. Each candidate does have the ability to pass one time. You have a one-time pass. This is not something that is always done in forums, but I have seen it been done before and think that thought that it was pretty cool. So you will have that opportunity. And if that is your decision, you simply say pass, and I'll note it as your one-time pass. And then we will get to your closing statements from the candidates before they leave the stage, and we call the District 3 candidates up. For our audience, the rules of engagement for this evening. We are going to ask that you please refrain from comments or feedback of any sort. This includes clapping, yelling, booing, etc. We are streaming this on YouTube. It is a live feed. And so in order to allow everybody the same opportunity to be able to hear what our candidates are saying, please ensure that we are not making noise of any sort. We really, truly appreciate your respect for this process. You will be getting a warning, of course, if we need to address that. Somebody will come to you and address that. And then if it continues, unfortunately, we will ask you to enjoy the show from another location, such as your home, vehicle, or wherever you so choose. Okay, and then with that, I am going to ask our first question. So I'm going to I have 4 names in the hat here, in the basket here, and I'm going to not look. I'm going to pull one name, and it's Sharon Roden. And Miss Roden will begin first, and then we're just going to go in line. And so for each question, the next person will then begin with that series of questions, and then we'll go on and so forth. So, Ms. Roden, please share why you have chosen to run for office.
First, I want to thank the chamber and all of those who turned out this evening here presently and also online. We really appreciate you being a part of this. When I first put my name in the hat for this, I'm not sure that I really looked at it as how it was running a pistachio farm. But when we first started our farm 41 years ago, it was full of hope and energy and wanting to do well. And so you just learn as much as you can, as fast as you can. And when there are problems that come along, you don't point fingers or lay blame. You try to get as much information as you can to find the best solution. And that's been so applicable to serving on the city council. I love representing the people of this town, and I love working with our staff, work so diligently, and I enjoy serving.
Thank you. Hello. Hello.
I was told I'm not allowed to tap on mics. My name is Chris Beal. I'm running for City Council in District 1. Thank you everyone for coming. I love to see old and new friends and my mom. It's great. And I think it's great that we have a choice in this election. So people really have a choice on who's going to be representing them. In terms of why I decided to run, I really see my professional and personal experience as being different and valuable to add to the council. I worked for a nonprofit. I brought together environmentalists, agriculturists, regulators, and community members. So we had to work actively in trying to engage people with different viewpoints to try to move forward. And the more I knock on doors, the more I realize that a lot of our neighborhoods and constituencies are very similar. And sometimes the different neighborhoods don't know what's going on in the other neighborhoods, but in the end, we're all neighbors and people have very important needs. So between my professional experience, my love for this town, I grew up here. I raised my son here. He went to the same school that I went to. I remember the days of Cornet and Joshua's, and I'm just as right. And I'm just as happy to be enjoying like Thai food and the park lights and everything that the town has to offer. And I want to make sure that we're really thoughtful and intentional about the type of town that we're passing on to the next generation. Because we love this town. For me, I want everyone to have the same opportunities that I have to create a better life. And that's why I'm running.
Hi, everybody. I'm in charge, and I am just so honored to be here. Never in my mindset that I would actually believe I'd run for public office. I prefer the comfort of my keyboard. Anyhow, the reason why I chose to run for office, I've actually been involved with city council meetings since 2021. And I have seen a lot of changes. I watched Mr. Bausch take his oath. I watched Mayor Hammond take his oath. And I actually feel like a big part of the city already. And the time that I've spent, the years inside the audience, is that I found something that I've not found in other areas of the state, which is a lack of transparency and a lack of communication. And that includes when just a simple email to the council with no reply. I think it's really important at this time and day with the way that our taxes are being abused statewide and locally, well, not locally, but we need to be careful with the I-24 measure. So what I like to do is, and especially after the paid parking debacle, I should say that I am part of the paid parking team, referendum team. And it is really important that we should not ever have to go to that level again and have to collect 2,400 signatures for our city council to listen. It is time that we do that now. Transparency, communication, and showing your math, showing your work, just like when we were in grade school. Show your work, show us how you got there. Don't just vote and don't just tell us. And that's why I'm running for city council, because it's time for me to step out of my keyboard and step up to the plate. Thank you.
And come on, yes, I'm Fred Strong. And why did I decide to run for city council? Well, we have to go back in history because that was 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, I was running campaigns for city council. And I had run a number of them, and my 5 people had been elected. And now they were going out of office. They wanted me. They thought I would be the best one to do it. And they hounded me, and I finally gave in. And I really didn't think I was going to win. But I found out I was better known than I thought. And I did win against some pretty prominent people. So I was very shocked. Once I was there, then I do the best job I know how to do. Because I'm not going to take on any responsibility without doing my best. And one thing that I didn't like about what's happening in the city at that time was that for 40 years, we had neglected all of our infrastructure. We had kicked the can down the road 40 years. We were polluting the river. We didn't have our own water plant at all. We were operating strictly out of some wells, and that was it. And we needed to do something. And we were just starting to do something called not so be underwater. And we thought, wow, some of that is available to us. Let's get a share of it. And so I fought for that, and we got that. And we got a lot of it, enough to take care of us really well. Plus, we got our river water certified, so that's ours for sure. So we can use that Salinas River water. And that's an underground river, by the way. But you see up there on the top, it's not that river. It's huge, and it's mostly underground. But same thing with our sewer plant. We were polluting like crazy, and we needed a whole new one. And so we got that. So as that happened, and these things have gone on, we've done that. Now here we are today. And we take me all the way upstairs, and I'm working on infrastructure there. And I'm working today, just like I had a national meeting on the streets and the roads and transportation. And we're writing the next bill. And that's why I'm gonna keep going, because there's still work to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Next question. And so now, Ms. Field, you will begin this one. I-24 is a hot topic right now. What is your position on this measure and why?
So I support I-24. We hear a lot that roads are a priority and the conditions of the roads are a priority. I-24 for people, the informed audience, but you all know that it's an extension of the 5% tax moving forward. And all of that money actually stays within the city. And in addition to what the residents contribute, our visitors are also contributing to that. So we actually get to pay up, help fix our roads with the help of our visitors. In addition, those dollars can be leveraged for state dollars. We don't have kind of a base fund to have those dollars. That makes us less competitive, or actually not even able to apply for other funds. We're able to, leverage our half-cent tax to grow and have a lot more dollars towards our roads. So I'm in support of it. The public safety is in support of it, because if we don't have this revenue to be fixing our roads, then that money to fix our roads will have to go somewhere. Will have to come from somewhere. And so some very, very hard decisions would have to be made in terms of public safety and other departments within the city. So I support it, and I think that's it. Oh, I would encourage anyone to go on the website, prcity.com. Slash I-24, you can get a little fact sheet about it. And in addition, if you'd like to kind of dive into documents, we highly recommend the Tax Oversight Committee. Their packets include very detailed reports on each project, where the money came from, what it's spent on, what's in progress, what's in the future plan. Highly recommend it.
Thanks for the question. You know, I-24, it's kind of been a hot topic, even at city council. It was originally E12. Just to let you guys know the history, and it is a continuance of the 0.5, it's by math, right? Sales tax, okay? And I actually spoke up at council that night. I was opposed to not having a sunset clause. I think it's really important after the paid parking, and again, we having to obtain 2,400 signatures, that we have some kind of assurance from the city council. And that includes not only a sunset clause, maybe about 5 years, also a trigger clause. Should that money not stay in the I-24 fund, there's so many initiatives, then it should just cease to exist. I think it's important because yes, I've said this before, we have potholes the size of Texas. Preston, my understanding from when we looked at that road, can only maybe survive one more rain. So my question is, can we lay back some projects and to try to prioritize our worst roads? According to Public Works, their triage, they only slurry the good roads because those will maintain those roads to stay good. However, we still need to pay attention to the roads that need the most work. Vine Street, 18th and Oak, I have pictures of them all. And I am really sad that we would actually invite people to our town, our city, and let them pop a tire and have their alignment go out too. And I think if we're gonna be good hosts and we wanna be a tourist city, then we need to make sure we take care of it.
And why am I supporting this? Very good reason. And that is because of what I just mentioned I was doing this morning, working on the national business. Because people probably don't even realize, we already have all the money for Preston Road, all the money for Nibbling, all the money for Commerce Way from our state and federal governments through grants. Now we have to come up with a 20% match of some of that. That's our local money. And that's what this money will do. And if we don't have enough of that, then we can't use the federal money. And if we don't get the project done within the time limits allowed, then we have to give the money back. So that's why we work as diligently as we can on these roads. And we don't want to dig them up right after we drop them. That's why we're doing all the underground work first. And that's what's holding up Preston Road right now. It's fixing those utilities because they're breaking up. And we don't want to dig up a brand new road. We want that road to last a long time for you. We want to do it at the cheapest price we can. And the reason for no sunset clause is because then we can bond on the money that we're going to get from that same source. Not your tax money, not any of your money, just that same money. But we can bond what is expected over a 20-year period or a 30-year period. And we don't get that money from out of our own pocket, get that from the banks. And they actually give it to us at a very good rate. So we can do those repairs, many more of them at cheaper dollars from today rather than on inflated dollars from tomorrow. And that way we get more money, more jobs done, more work done with your money than other things. That's why I'm supporting.
You know, the simple thing is we all use roads. We use roads to come here to gather together, utilize the roads, taking our kids to school, not my kids, but other people's kids. We go to the hospital, appointments. They're a necessary part of our living. I-24, let's be clear, it is not an extra tax, it's a replacement of E12. And the reason we sunset it, as Mr. Strong said, is to be able to bond. Now, I'm not sure that we need to. We'll figure that out as time passes and we look at other things within our budget. But our staff has been extremely good at finding grants. And of all the money collected since 2012, that's $78 million. Every penny has gone towards roads. And of the 152 miles, lane miles, 45% have been touched. What's the difference between the roads? Some of them, you have to take care of the sewer and the water, mostly on the west side. They're gonna be the most expensive. The chip and seal is maybe $1 a square foot. What's gonna be happening on the west side is probably $25, $26 a square foot, not cheap. We all know costs have gone. So if we're going to proceed down and be able to continue repairing our roads, we really need to pass this measure. And I would hope that you all support it.
Next question. With 60% of Paso Robles population being under 50 years old, what are the biggest challenges they face and how will you address these challenges?
Hello, that's a really good question. We do have a really large elderly community here, a senior community, and for the people that are younger, I have run into the same story from a lot of locals that they're based here and then they leave to see bigger pastures and then they end up coming back here. I asked that question last night, and what it is that there are a lack of really good jobs for our youth. When they graduate, they go to Cal Poly, then they don't really have anywhere to transfer towards in our own city because we're comprised of small businesses. We don't have big box stores, retailers, and tech and things that they can move into. And that includes jobs, housing, unaffordable housing for our youth. I know that my son, he's 31 years old, he couldn't afford to even rent an apartment, and those things need to change. If I remember right, in the budget hearing, and I just have to correct one thing, our staff does not get grants. We consult for those grants, so I'm not sure where that came from, but it's part of what they do. So anyhow, for my son, it would be difficult for him to find a place to live. So I actually have some ideas. I'm thinking about a mobile home, maybe some mobile home parks, transitional housing, anything that is actually affordable. I was actually very fortunate to go to the Chanter Ranch. I believe we toured all the really great affordable housing units that are coming out, including the senior. And I think it's going to take a real good kick in the pants, for lack of better words, with housing to try to get these more better affordable rents so that our youth can stay here and live the dream, the American dream in our own city.
Many of these are actually issues that we have to pay attention to, and we have to enable you to be able to do things, or the building private community to do the solutions. But it's the state and federal level that actually mandate to us what we have to do and give us the rules by which we have to do it. And we don't have any choice on that because they are the higher form of government. And what they say goes, because if we don't follow their rules, we go to prison, literally. I mean, individual members of the council wind up going to prison. And so we have to follow those rules. Once we follow those rules, and that's what we're doing as much as we possibly can, we are building and we are zoning and we are planning things that have to be done. Now it's up to the private sector to step in and do it. We have a housing authority that is quasi-independent of the city. We appointed its board of directors, and that's as far as we go. Beyond that, they're independent. But they're building low-income housing right now. Mostly, some are for seniors. The project over there, Walmart, is for seniors. The one that's at the end of Nimbley Road, that's for everybody that's low income. And even there, low income is defined again by the state as to what qualifies and what doesn't. So we have to follow those rules and do it. But we will use all those tools we have to try to solve the problem so that everybody has a chance to have a good life here in Paso Robles.
Quality of life. For a lot of people, that encompasses the affordable housing we talked about, but it also encompasses childcare. There are a lot of people in our hometown here that don't have the availability of childcare. I was at a meeting the other day, the Kenny collected a group of people, 12, 15 people. Jennifer Loftus was there, Warren Frace was there, Diane Zanotti. We have Yesenia Echeverria. She was there. A lot more people. I won't go into that, but we met at Georgia Brown to look at what we could do at Georgia Brown for the future. And there was a large amount of us that really want to go towards a trade school, but there are other issues too, or other ideas. Community center, someplace that you could also have there for childcare, a park, affordable housing. It's 11 acres. And this is exciting when you get a group of people together and you're looking at ideas that can take you someplace else in a community and for that benefit of the community. But the city also analyzed a lot of the different spaces within our city. I think there are 24 sites that we're looking at and working with the housing authority. And so the people who are investing in our community to come in and hopefully build those affordable housing.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm looking around the room and, I'm seeing maybe 5 people that are under the age of 50. And I have, everybody's young to me, so I might have my mouth long, but you get the idea, right? And I know that when I was, 35 and raised my son, I was not coming to, city council meetings. So, my concern is that the under 50 age group, who are our hardworking families, the next generation, they are our children and our grandchildren. I really want to make sure that their interests are being represented on the council, so the issues that are important to them are being elevated in a way where they're considered. So I'm specifically running on, housing, job diversity, and places and spaces for our youth. That is specifically the feedback that I've gotten from our working families. Of course, we can do things to make their life easier. Childcare is a huge issue. It actually comes up in the housing element. It actually comes up in the economic development strategic plan. Housing is at the root of so many issues in our community. But I really think that this is the time that we're intentional and thoughtful about the kind of community that we want to have in 5, 10, 20 years, right? If our community is so inaccessible to our families, they won't be able to stay, right? And that has business implication in terms of our workforce and who stays here to work in these industries that we have here. It has implications to the kind of the flavor and the nature of our town. My son also is 31 years old, he couldn't move back, right? So again, I've had a good life here and I want to make sure that we're paying attention to younger people so that they have a chance for a good life too.
Okay, Mr. Strong, you'll begin this. How can a divided city council come to a consensus?
Well, first of all, it shouldn't be a divided city council because we're all working with the same thing. Even though we represent individual districts, actually, the first 16 years of my term in office so far, I've represented the entire city. So since then, that we've gone into districts. And every vote we take is for the entire city, not just for our district. So we have to work together. And no matter who's sitting on that council, we have to respect each other, we have to listen to each other, and we have to hope everybody listens to us as well. And we have to try to come up with the best compromise if necessary, or the best idea that's offered and supported. And that's really what we try to do as a city council. It's not a matter of being divided. It's a matter of overcoming those divisions. And we should be able to do it. And we have done it for many, many decades. There's no reason we can't do it now.
Consensus to me means a consent to agree. Some people even phrase it as go along to get along. And I don't really subscribe to that. I want to get the most information I can on every agenda. I read the agenda. I work with the people in the area to make sure that I'm hearing ideas across the board. all you have to do is look at my endorsements to know that I don't allow someone's political opinions to affect exactly how I feel about an issue or gain information from those people. And it's important to get as much information so that when you make a vote and you're talking to people that are your constituents, people outside of your district, that you're formulating the best decision for that particular action. So I'll stand behind every vote that I have ever cast because I have put in the hours to back up every vote that I have made. I did the research, I did the groundwork, I talked to people, I listened to people. Sometimes I didn't agree with people, and they think not listening means you didn't listen, but I did. I listened to everyone. I took notes, and I referred to those notes. But I may not have agreed with a small portion of people on some vote. But I want to work with a council and get ideas. I value all of their input, but my vote is my vote, and I'll stand behind that.
Thank you.
Great, there's a couple of different issues in this question. It's, one involves, how I would personally be, making up a decision or, figuring out a position on a certain item. For me personally, that's going to be getting input from different people, right? Because I think the tendency is for us to be sitting in our silos and thinking that this opinion is the popular opinion. But then when we go out beyond the silo, we might find that maybe that isn't the majority, maybe there are different opinions out there. So getting input, I'm also kind of a data person, so I really like to do my research. Good information is critical for sound decisions. And then of course there's kind of this values issue. I'm a process person. I really believe in a good process to be informing decisions. In terms of how, the council isn't supposed to be working with each other to be like developing, talking about items up in front of them. That said, knowing people and knowing sort of what their values are and what their interests are, there are ways to, move forward for compromise. And frankly, compromise sometimes is the way to go rather than sort of, standing in our position and being unmovable. And I think there's a couple of examples of that lately that I think just was not helpful. I think it made kind of the situation worse. So there you go.
Hello, thanks for the question again. Well, that community center and information idea sounds like what the residents have in Lost Hills, but I wouldn't see things that way. I actually frankly don't see a divided city council. I've been sitting there since 2021, I promise you. They're not divided, the community's divided. There were topics that divided the community, like paid parking, the short-term rentals. Those are the roads not getting fixed. Those are the real hot topics that I find over and over again. And to be honest, I have not seen the council be so divided that they cannot make a decision. I've seen lockout vote where there's 3-1 or 3-2, part of that, and that's what frustrates me because again, show us your map. How did you get to that decision? Don't just tell me you reviewed it, okay, and looked at it, because anybody can say that. So what I'd like to see is that the community get united, become united again. We don't have to be angry at each other and put editorials in the paper telling constituents that they're dumb and they just don't understand. I mean, that's just not me. This doesn't need to be here. We're all adults, and the council needs to operate as such. You may not like my opinion, but that doesn't mean you come after me because you don't like that opinion. So I hope that the community eventually understands that we're going to be reunited one day, and I hope to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. There are 325 vacation rentals in Paso Robles. We are building over 800 new hotel rooms. how will you commit to preserve Paso's character with all of that tourism?
Well, as you know, tourism has become our bread and butter around here. And like anything, you can't ever rely on one particular thing or you're going to hurt at one particular time. We've all seen the ebbs and flows of this town. As for vacation rentals, one thing I have I have always supported not having vacation rentals in R1, R2, but only in the T zone. And here's another thing that I've been opposed on. I don't think that anybody who has a vacation rental has the right to be able to sell the permit with that vacation rental when they sell the home. And I'll tell you why. I had a friend that lived 2 or 3 doors down from a vacation rental I had. And this gets in my pocket. This isn't because it benefits me. It's taking money out of my pocket. A couple of doors down, his house appraised for $600,000. He sold it for $825 because it had a vacation rental permit. Now there are a lot of people that might have been able to afford that house, even though it's $600,000 is still high, but more readily afforded at $600,000 than at $800,000. So we have a lot of people outside the area investing in our town. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is it has to be thoughtful. And we have a housing issue here. So if you have a $400,000 house and you're selling it for $6 because of the permit tacked on it, I just don't think that's right. And that's taking money out of my pocket. So I don't just represent those ideas that I may have. I represent those for the good and for the right for the community.
Thank you.
Thanks. So this district involves, downtown, which obviously has a lot of short-term rentals. And when talking to people on their doors, what I'm hearing from people, sometimes I hear complaints, visitors are rowdy or whatever, but for the most part, I'm hearing grief and sadness from people that don't have neighbors. Like, let that sink in for a minute. And again, I think we really need to be thoughtful about our short-term rental policy and the lodging. Again, tourism has been important for us. But again, this is a time to be stepping back and to be looking overall about the balance of our economic portfolio. Right? I'm not saying one thing is good or bad, but let's step back and see if it's balanced. Because when we have a balanced economy, a balanced economic base, we will be more resilient because things go up and down, right? We will have a diversity of opportunity for our residents that are really looking for opportunities. It does a lot of really important things for us, and Paso Robles is really positioned well to attract different types of businesses.
No, it's a great. I like props. Okay. Here we go. Short-term rentals in Paso Robles. R1's 103 non-hosted, limited to 75, 64, other zones 27. Here is my thought. That is 416 rentals for our youth. And we have people on the council admittedly making money off of these homes. I have heard complaints from citizens as I'm canvassing that there are people coming into our city and purchasing 3 homes in a neighborhood and then converting them into vacation homes. What's the biggest complaints? Well, it says right here, noise. Okay, so how do you live peacefully, locals, when you've got 3 SRTs right next to you? How do you park? You got 6 people visiting in that SRT, that vacation home. My doctor's assistant from Castro Valley, California, rented a vacation home, 25 people in one place. Now you tell me, where's all those cars coming? I think when I get on the council, the first thing I want to say is that if you are actively on the council, you need to relinquish your permit. You cannot be making money on your short-term rentals on street as you're making decisions We got to the point where 3 council members own short-term rentals. There are 5 of them, 5. So when it comes to voting, I just asked this question the other day, short straw. They still get to make decisions and that needs to stop.
All right. Vacation rentals is one issue. But if you look at the history of the city, we've frequently been in one commodity town. We started the Olympics, Diamond Almonds started here. We started a lot of different things. And actually now we're diversifying for the first time. So now we've got wine, we've got almonds, we've got also, we used to have a lot of cattle, cows actually too. But now we've also got lavender and we've got olives and we're doing a lot of that agriculturally. But we're also looking at the airport. A spaceport is going to bring in high-tech jobs, and that's going to be a lot of them. And that's why we have major national and international firms now looking at Paso Robles as part of the diversification of our economy. And don't neglect the tourists. The tourism industry pays 80% of our total budget right now, believe it or not. That's how we can keep your taxes low. It's going to give you a lot of good services. If it wasn't for the tourists, there's a lot of these services we just wouldn't have. So we need to keep this economy diversified in a lot of different ways and try to make it attractive to employers as well as to visitors. Thank you.
Thank you. We're not sorry. I think yes, okay. How would you support and provide workforce housing in the city? Housing for firemen, teachers, policemen, etc.
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's a need for it. All the guidelines around kind of housing production, arena, and things like that are typically broken down into different categories of income levels. Those are preset. The median household income for a family of 4 in this district is like $75,000. Right? So let's just do the math on that. If you're gonna be, paying no more than 30% of their rent, there's just nothing accessible to that. So in order to develop housing, I was reviewing the 2020 housing element, and everything is in there, and our HSOP committee has done so much work. So like prior to 2020, we did so much work in developing the housing element. Since then, they've been doing a lot of work on, going over the zoning codes. But it seems to me that the time is now to be reconvening that committee to be doing a very, an up-to-date review of the current housing portfolio, how it breaks down, what the timing is, because some things are permitted, some things are in construction, some things have been built. And quite frankly, at this point, it's a little hard to construct, and the committee hasn't really addressed that in a holistic, high-level way. So that would be one thing, because all of the action items in order to prioritize and develop the housing for the people that need it in this town is all laid out in the housing element. And so we should work on getting the committee together to implement this.
Okay, it's kind of a tricky question because there's workforce housing and then there's workforce housing developments, which is really granted by the state. So you have farm workers, those types of people with those types of incomes, are day laborers. There's a program that the state actually gives the city money to create housing. I'm under the persuasion that if you're going to own a farm or agriculture, we're big on agriculture here, that you should be providing your workers housing. I live on Spring Street in the middle of all the day laborers, and I see how they struggle. So I think as far as workforce housing, I think that we need to look at it a little differently here, which is maybe if we can't get that stuff, that information from the state or a grant from the state to actually develop the right project, not just put a title on it. Because on the Spring Street project, they have 16 hotel rooms on an overlay, 8 residential, and then 1 workforce housing. That's supposed to be for low income people that I guess the city is going to determine if they can afford it or be eligible for it. So my point being is that we could do all kinds of things. I know people don't like rent control, but we could do rent stabilization ordinances. Things like that. It doesn't have to be one or all. And I think that's what I've noticed with this council, that it's one thing or the other. It's black or white. But I think that we just need to start looking outside the box and see all the developments that are available and stop building these hotels and just build places for the residents. Thank you.
And that's a very interesting question because it's really a question for the private sector, not for us. Because we don't do this. All we can do is enable it. And farmers used to bring people in for their crops. Sometimes they just truck them in from wherever they were living. And sometimes they would actually, if it's rather be there for days or weeks and many a long time, they provide some type of housing on site. But that was agriculture. We actually do have some of our hoteliers now are starting to provide workforce housing as part of the projects, especially down near Highway 46 and Vine Street. There's workforce housing that's actually being built by the people who are building those hotels. And their workers are going to live right there on site, their own little area of housing. And it'll be right near where they have individual houses for some of their guests. It's like a vacation rental, only as an adjunct to the hotel. And that's how it's done. But that's up to the employer. That's not up to us to tell them how to run their business. So I don't think it's a really good question for the city council.
Can you repeat the question, please?
I would be happy to. How would you support and provide workforce housing in the city? Housing for firemen, teachers, policemen, etc.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit more expanded. Well, just to clear it up, other than the zoning laws we have, you can't tell the landowner what they can or cannot build. That's called private land rights. What has been done in other places are deed restricted housing. When there's new housing coming in, you can actually deed restrict it, done for teachers and nurses. We hope to do it, or I would like to do it for police and fire. I know that the school district is also talking about that and helping out the teachers as well. Also, right now, we have a low interest loan that we offer to some of the police for basically a down payment on a home. And when they sell it, they have to pay off that loan. And I think it's an interest only. So the deed restricted, I think, is going to be very helpful when it comes to that. The workforce housing, of course, I've already gone through some of the areas where the city is working with the housing authority to build not only in low income, but workforce housing as well. I would support a hotel or any business providing workforce housing. I think that's a great idea. I've talked to some of them about it, but you can't force people to do that. That's called a different form of government than we choose in a democracy or a republic. So, thank you.
We're on to the next question, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm following along. No.
You want that?
All right.
Kind of, as it's the last one.
What can be done to reduce the ever-growing and burdensome regulations hampering small businesses and raising the cost of doing business and building? And I'm going to actually let this be a 2-minute response. So what can be done to reduce the ever-growing and burdensome regulations hampering small businesses and raising the cost of doing business and building?
That's kind of a big question. I do want to let everybody know that I am a champion fighter for small businesses, independent contractors, and franchisees. I've recognized, and I've said many times at council, that our entire economy is based off of small businesses. I might have mentioned it earlier. We don't have, we don't have big tech or anything like that in our city. I mean, I know that's a dream down the road, but what's the question again? It's getting hot, guys. You wait till you get us here. Okay, go ahead.
What can be done to reduce the ever-growing and burdensome?
Thank you so much. Okay, so what I think we should do, we just had this kind of issue come up. The planning commission had forwarded from 2014, we thought they were brand new prohibited home occupations. And I kind of got involved with that as well as Jeff Carr and others. And my whole persuasion as far as small businesses are concerned is that if that's where our economy is going to be based upon, then we need to make doing business as simple and easy as possible. I've heard of some situations where, oh, the city didn't like my fence that I built and they want me to tear it down. Those sorts of things shouldn't happen unless they're a violation of the state regulations. And if our ordinances create that such, then we should actually fix those ordinances. And I think that's the one thing that I love doing is tailoring laws so that our lives are enriched. There's no definition to a quality of life. Everybody has a different definition for that. But there's a definition for a quality of a small business, which is let the city give you all the resources you need to function and that this economy stays booming. We cannot just say, oh, our whole economy is based on tourists. That's only part of what we get as far as revenue for the city. It's not the whole thing. And we can't lay all the responsibility on the tourists to pay for our city and then have the small businesses who are just entrenched with ordinances and regulations. Some that don't make sense. Pet sitter, we went around and round with that. There's all kinds of things we can do. So what I want to say is that I absolutely support small businesses. I've been fighting since 2014.
Thank you.
Well, basically, it's a matter of zoning. It's the one thing we can do. Is there enough land? Is there enough area that is zoned with type of businesses that want to come here? Not that necessarily we want to come here, because that's their choice. Do you want to open a business? It's your choice where you want to go, what city you want to be in, what area you want to serve. And you have to look at what your zoning availability is and what you can rent or build. And that's the thing too. We can't tell the landlords how much rent they can charge at this point in time. Now, I understand that there's a state measure out right now that is going to impose rent control. And that's being advertised on TV at least. And I haven't really read it that closely to know myself exactly just how effective it might be. But rent control is the way that state and federal government. We don't have that same kind of power at the local level to a great extent. We do to some extent, but only for a very limited extent. So what we can do is try to keep our fees at a reasonable rate. And actually there, all we're really allowed by law to do is charge the cost of providing that service. So we can charge them for how much time it's going to take to process the permit. But we have to make sure that they meet the health requirements of the business they have, and also the fire requirements for the business they have. And that's about the extent of what we can do. So then it's up to them just to try to do the most efficient time business they can possibly do and put it in the right location. That's about it.
We've all had the effects if you own a business of minimum wage increases, cost of goods going up, especially since COVID. Those kind of things. Well, I know my time's not up. Um, Cost of goods, all of that has gone up, especially since COVID. We've seen a huge climb in those things. Not only do you have to have a good business plan, but you have to have good partners. The chamber is a good partner. Little plug there. Travel Paso. A lot of people in this town are working to try to help small businesses, and even in our city with our economic development plan, we've done a really great job in trying to provide or look for the future. And HBA, Hispanic Business Association, Maria Garcia is involved with, has been tremendous in helping Hispanic businesses go through all of the ins and outs of business plans, taxes, helping them get on their feet and being a part of our community and doing well. That gives back to our community.
One second. Are you ready? Silence, that's all right.
Okay, so I'm gonna be the first one to say that I'm not an expert in anything, and I actually, whoever asked this question, I would love to have a conversation with you about specifically what you're talking about, and so that I can understand the context a little bit more. The business owners that I've been speaking with, I'm hearing issues, the cost of labor, cost of rental. Those have been the themes that I've been hearing, and so again, I'd like to know what regulations specifically the city is coming into play for that question. In my other life, when I worked with the Regional Water Quality Control Board, it was great. Their meetings were 12 hours long. Yeah, no, I'm conditioned. We actually negotiated some regulatory relief, very different context. It was agriculture, it had to do with sanitization. So, I have a little bit of experience in terms of kind of negotiating around regulations. I'm not sure exactly how that would work in the municipal side, but that. And then one thing I wanna address that went in the last round, there was a conversation about, the council can't do it, it's not the council's role. It state very clearly, the council is responsible for adopting goals, identifying priorities, adopting budgets to meet those goals. And if we're talking about housing, if we're talking about jobs, whatever the issue is, the council does have a large role in seeing that that's done. For example, affordable housing was not in the goal document in one of the first iterations. There was some public comment with Councilmember Gregory actually affirmed that we should have affordable housing within that goal document, and now it's a goal, right? So the council does have a role in terms of elevating the real needs of the people to make sure they're being addressed.
You started that one. Next question, Mr. Strong. What committees are you on? Excuse me, this will be a minute and a half. What committees are you on, or what city meetings do you currently attend, or would you want to be on? For example, planning commission, library, parks, youth, seniors, airport, etc.
I'll see. I'll see if I can actually name them all in that time. Because let's see, we're liaisons to a lot of places. Main Street, the Youth Commission, the Library Board of Directors, the Youth Sports, and I represent the city at regional government and at the regional transportation authority. I represent them in turn on other places which also affect you. I represent the city at national, the state League of Cities, California State League of Cities, and also at the National League of Cities, where I sit on the Transportation Committee. And then I represent our regional government as our delegate on the board of directors for the Pacific Surf Liner Railroad. And I also represent them at the CalCog, which is the California Council of Governments, where I'm a two-term past chairman of the board for the state. And I represent them at the National Association of Regional Councils, where I hold on the board of directors there the seat for the National League of Cities, and representing all the cities of the United States on the board of directors for all the regional governments of the United States. And I am in my 18th year as the chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee for all the regional governments of the United States and its territories. And this is why I helped write the last infrastructure bills for transportation infrastructure bills for the United States Congress.
Thank you.
As Mr. Strong said, we may be on some committees or a committee, but we're also liaison many times, which means we don't have vote on that committee. We report to that committee from the city council, and then we report back to the city council what's going on in that committee. Those, I'm on the chamber, Parks and Rec, and the supplemental tax. Where I do have a vote when when our Mayor Hammond is not there, I'm on the Paso Robles Water Basin. Just had a meeting last night. Ones I would like to be on, I think the only other one I think I would really enjoy being on is something to do with the airport. We have a gem there, and we have a future at that airport. And I'm a little protective over that airport, and I want to make sure that we do it right, that we build correctly, and we support those industries out there and those businesses. It's very important to me. But that doesn't stop with whatever committees you're on. You're having meetings most of the time with just everybody throughout the city, whether it's businesses, whether it's Lonnie Wiley with housing, with Echo, with Wendy and Austin that are doing an awesome job. And you're meeting with staff. So it's an ongoing process and not to be taken lightly. You need to do your work.
Thank you. Great. So I think this is a really interesting question. It's certainly valuable to be on where issues are and things like that. When I was working in my nonprofit job for 23 years, I was on a lot of committees, and in my free time, I was not volunteering for the committees. I have participated in school district committees. I've certainly participated in attending and monitoring different committees in the city. But in addition to that, it was interesting when I was thinking about applying for the vacancy, or when I was planning on applying, people said, well, you can't do that. You're not on planning commission. And it really got me thinking, because I have a long, excellent track record of leadership and collaboration that actually brings quite a few good skills to the council. And I thought, well, why should that be the only pathway to leadership? And that's also another reason why I decided to step up, because there are different connections to the community, different life experience that would bring value to balancing the voice on the council. In addition to sort of like the committees and these formal structures of participation, for a long time, I have been involved with the community in terms of Latino agricultural outreach and education, Latino scholarship work, working in drug addiction places, teaching wellness, volunteering at various nonprofits, and a lot of organizations serving the youth. And I think that experience also is valuable because it gives me a different perspective with the community. And it went on long before I was.
Well, am I starting? Okay. Campaigns committees. I have fallen in love with campaigns and committees since 2009. I have been at congressional hearings. I helped pass. Thus far, we're on our my laws that I've worked on. I'm on my 7th state law that's been passed. AB 604 is my baby. It's water fair charges for water in mobile home parks. So currently, I'm a legislative contact for GSMOL.org. It's Golden State Manufacturer Owner League, and we represent all mobile homes in California. I represent 3 of the mobile homes within the city, 3 little ones on Spring Street. That's one of the things I've done. I also worked on the Recall Gavin Newsom campaign 2 times. The most recent one, we were going to try to circumvent him becoming president, so that's why that recall was going, but we don't have to now. I've also been on Latino and Latina committees, secure retirement committees. I'm a representative for RPEA, Retired Public Employees Association. If you need a committee member or a campaign leader, I'm there. I run a 15 national campaign against the PRO Act, which just decimated 70 million independent contractor jobs in the nation. And I also have my personal campaigns. But I fight for every single situation like it's my own, and that you're my family.
Thank you. All right, this, I believe, is going to be our final question. We may have time for one more. I'll continue to check the clock. Correct, we will be doing closing statements, so I don't believe, that's why I think that this is probably going to be our last question. So what can be done about the homeless population that does not want help from ECHO? The example is drug abusers.
You know, I don't know that there are very many people who haven't dealt with some sort of addiction in their family or mental illness. But we all know that you have to be willing to accept help for there to be any closure or any solution to that. But I am excited by the fact that the Supreme Court overthrew the grants passed. And we now have the toolbox to be able to make a difference in our community. We have the strategic plan that is also going to help pave the way for us to be able to do some things in our community that we weren't able to do before. It is not the end all. I think there's another referendum that's going to be on the ballot. I think it's 36, but it's basically overturning the referendum that was on there a few years back that negated anyone being arrested for stealing anything under $950. And they're also adding fentanyl to those crimes that if you're caught with fentanyl and a loaded gun, it's a felony. Those things are important. Those things give the police the ability to do something. Their hands have been tied for a while. But I also have to commend our city and ECHO. They have an excellent working relationship and they have made strides in our community to make a difference.
Yeah, so I actually participated in volunteering at a point in time now that was earlier in the year. And there's, it's a challenge with the process like that because it happens on a single day. And but it was very, very eye-opening. And the result of that report by the County of San Luis Obispo, it's done nationally. We had teams that go out. Councilmember Bausch was out as part of the team also. And one of the results of that was, just a reminder that 60% of the people that are unsheltered due to the lack of access to affordable housing. So I know that issues of addiction and mental illness, that is very visible, right? It's very much it's so it's around, but it's really important. You need to remember that there are a lot of people that are a domestic violence incident away from losing their housing, a health issue away from losing their housing, fired, losing their job. We have a lot of people that are unsheltered that are not in the drug addict mental illness category. Obviously, there are things that we cannot do. We can certainly hope the county gets more funds so that we get more than a handful of, beds that can treat addiction and mental health issues. But aside from that, there are a lot of people that can help. Right now, there's a 200-person waiting list for ECHO. So really need to be looking at that, looking at the accessibility of housing as well.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, well, this is kind of my domain. I've been working with the homeless since I was a kid. I started with the state at 18 years old, and part of my clinical rotation was disposition for the homeless, finding them places to live, finding them treatment. But one of the things I want to say is that I'm not excited about the grants pass authority decision. I think it's a good thing. I think it's inhumane to let people lay around and do drugs in our riverbed. It's just simple. There are a lot of people that will not want help, but we need to help those who want help. I'm against harm reduction. I would love to see slow bankers be eliminated from our city. I don't think we should be encouraging drug use. In San Francisco, they're serving their homeless alcohol. And we don't want to be that. And to be honest, our homeless is not that bad compared to the bigger cities. As far as cleaning out the encampments, I think that it's really important that we give them their own power. And then we start treating them with dignity and respect in the fashion that we let them know, hey, we gotta clean this out because Gavin Newsom's mad, he didn't get to be president. Okay, he's mad, that's what it is. So now he wants to clean up all of California in one fell swoop, and that's not fair to our residents. I have actually spoken with all. And do you know, we have a mayor of the Riverbend? He's just a delight. They all wanna work. Austin actually got a lot of our homeless jobs at the State Fair. I wanna continue that work. I wanna keep putting them on the county, state and federal rolls, so they cease to be a monetary issue to us, and I don't believe in policing our homeless, arresting them. That is not humane either. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And finally, I'll say that there are people who just don't want to be part of society. And there is an element that has been there from the beginning of time. Any of you who are religious or read the Bible, remember that it says there that the poor will always be with us. But the poor, it's not necessarily what they are. Now, it's been described here, things we can do. If they violate the law, if they have very specific problems that fall within the jurisdiction of the law, that's fine. Other than that, they're citizens and they have all the rights that we have. And we can't do anything to them we can't do to each other. And if we try to do it to them, then expect it to be done to you too. So be careful what you wish for. However, there is another aspect to this, and that is some of them do much better than we think. And I know a very specific case because I was very close friends with the deputy sheriff in another jurisdiction that had a panhandler who was hanging out down by the railroads for almost 30 years. And every day he'd be down there and then he'd be out in the streets. And then every once in a while they'd catch him doing panhandling and they'd arrest him, throw him in overnight, and they have to release him the next morning. But every time they took him in there, they have to take all his property away and put it in. And in the morning, he'd never take it, he'd never pick it up. But 30 years later, he finally died. And now they had all this property that was still there in his name, and they had to do something with it. So they had to log it and actually catalog it and then contact an heir who then they gave his $3 billion that he had left there over a 30-year period. So he was not fooled. He was very good at panhandling. So don't necessarily assume these people are really what they want to present to you. And we have a variety within our society that we somehow have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we actually do have time for one more question before our closing statement. So next, who gets to start? Yes, me too. It is fresh. Mr. Jones. What is your position on term limits for the city council? And what length of term would be agreeable to you?
Number one, opposed to it. I'll tell you why. They were put in by Willie Brown. People that didn't like what some people were doing. We had somebody named Hamish a long time ago too that really dominated the state, and that's how they all got started. They wanted to get rid of one particular person who was irritating other people, and they wanted to get rid of it. So they started term limits, and all term limits does is it throws the good people out with the bad, and that's silly because if you got somebody who knows what they're doing, you sure as heck don't want to automatically terminate them. So I'm just so don't see that there's value in it because right now we have term limits everywhere. They're called elections. It's your choice anytime you want to terminate any one of us. And that's the way I believe the whole American system was set up in the first place. And I believe the Constitution and the system of this United States as it was founded. And I'll stand by that.
I'll give you one good reason why we don't want term limits. This guy right here sitting to my left.
Aw.
When I first got on the council, we had lunch together and he told me I would say all about his life, but I know that's not true because every time we meet, I learn more and more. But this man has a tremendous amount of information about government. I have learned so much from him. I've learned from other people as well, but this guy has the experience to go along with it. And I'm amazed by it. And God bless him for continuing to serve. And I agree with Mr. Strong. It's hard to disagree with him because he knows a lot. So I would be against term limits as well. I think the people need to speak. And this is not an easy process. This is my first campaign. And it's a lot of work. We have a huge district. I wish I'd gotten a mule ahead of time for some of the hills up here. And it's working on me. I am losing weight though, so there's a good thing. But I think it's important to keep the representative or practice going with people actually voting for those that they want to represent them.
Pass.
Darn you.
Nice.
This is actually easy for me. I don't think term limits in this particular city is an issue. I think what I've heard over and over from you constituents, you guys really don't like districts. You do not like districts. You want to vote for whoever you want to vote for. You know, I come from the Bay Area. That's all we know are districts. So was never a question for me before. I just automatically assumed that's how the entire state was. But I have listened to at least 10 different constituents who say, I want the districts to be gone. Why did Paso Robles pass the districts before everybody else? I wasn't here, so I couldn't say what the reasoning was or sitting in the audience, but I think that's the bigger complaint of all of you. You would rather just vote for whoever you want to vote for without being limited. And I don't know the ramifications of that or if it can be changed at this point. I don't know if it's a council decision. I understand that it was a state law, but somewhere along the line, if it's something that can be fixed, it is, but I don't think it is. Again, I voted in districts my entire life. So I think it's interesting that people don't like it because it allows, I believe it allows everybody, a certain part of the city to have their own input. And that's why I'm running, because I want to represent District 1. I mean, I'll always represent everybody as a whole, but I want to represent District 1 and make sure you have everything you need.
Thank you. Okay, we are now going to have our closing statements, of which you will have, again, 1 minute and 30 seconds.
So speak fast.
And do you all want 2 minutes?
No, it's fine.
Okay. You can talk me into it. We have that time. We have the flexibility. I set my timer for 2 minutes even. And we'll begin. You ready?
You know what? We covered a lot of topics tonight, but I think really the most important question is why should you vote for me? Who you select for the city council is going to have an effect on the city, not just in the next year, but 10 years down the road. You're going to affect affordable housing, quality of life, current and future economic development, important decisions about roads, most importantly, how we govern our community. So it comes down to transparent and efficient government, how we deal with difficult situations, and what representative government actually means. Housing is not going to be solved with a reduction in city fees and charges. I agree that those can be a part of it, but the solution is getting the houses built. I have a real solution, and that's improving the quality of life. I don't know if a lot of you know, but YMCA is looking at a place in our district to build. And as I talked about earlier, Georgia Brown is the opportunities and develop that for a community base. Those are important issues in our town. Economic development. We have to continue moving forward on the spaceport. And we got some hurdles to jump over, and it's gonna be some hard work involved. But we're looking for a real opportunity for household jobs. I-24, please vote for I-24. It's important because we need to keep our police and fire supported through J-20. There's a little bit of those funds used for maintenance, but we don't want to have to cut into that budget to take care of our roads. That is just mandatory, and we know that. I'm a proven and successful businesswoman. I've created budgets, worked one-on-one with employees in training and supervising, and knowing to give respect, you have to give respect.
Thank you.
So my name is Chris Beal. I'm running to be a new voice on the council. There is value in having somebody with a different perspective, life experience. I'm not young, but I'm younger, right? I was a single mom. There's value in having that experience on the council to represent our hard-working families. I think about when I raised my son. We lived by spec. We played there. That was like a park. All this open space, basketball, bikes, all the schools are all fenced off right now. We have lost all of that open space for the kids to play. What do I hear knocking on the, we have the highest number of renters, the highest number of families in this district. It is a young district. Our town is young. Even if we just take a moment to reflect on the kind of questions that were asked, it is reflecting the fact that we're all a little bit older sitting in this room. And my concern is that the needs of the next generation aren't going to be addressed. And that people that would like to raise their families here will be left behind because the only people that come to city council meetings are people like us and regardless. So I think there's value in a diversity of perspective. I think there's value in a diversity of experience. I think there's value in injecting that into the conversation and to be able to work on community engagement to have these difficult conversations. That's where my strengths are, right? That's where my experience is. And I humbly ask for your vote.
Hello. So I like the airport. I was just there. It's really nice. Okay, but I'm not gonna spend my time on a tech project. I'm gonna spend my time on you guys. This is a 2-year term, okay? And it's not about me, it's about District 1 and you, what you guys want. You know, I'm passing out, I'm hand delivering these cards. And you guys will say, thank you very much. And so I say, turn it around. I want to know what your top 3 priorities for your neighborhood is. There's my email address. And you know, you guys are responding. I'm very happy that you guys are already engaging with me. And I've already worked with a lot of constituents and I've already solved a lot of problems, even for the homeless farm. And I just want to continue that work. You know, I am here. I've been working for the government since I was 18 years old. I am very ethically bound and I am completely enshrouded with transparency. I think it is imperative when you work for a government, the state for 30 years, you know where the skeletons are and you know who the people are who will hide those skeletons. I'm that person. Transparency. I say this all the time. My dream job was to be a fraud investigator for SSA. So, you know, I want you to know that there's the incumbent, there's a new voice, and then there's the right choice. I'm thinking, because I promise you, I will spend the next 2 years, and if I have to, read this 255-page Bible called the budget and make sure that everything is on the up and up. That is my goal. You know, I really appreciate everybody I've met so far, and I cannot wait to get to know more of you. And I want to open the lines of transparency. You'll get email blasts, you'll get newsletters from me. I will invite you to come stick up for your own fight, just like the pet sitter. Paso Pet Annie, she came up and stood up for herself. And that's what this is really about. I can't do anything without you. This is us. This is not a Linda thing. So vote for Kiki.
All right. Thank you. Well, I have no opponent, so I don't have to. Tell you this, I did bring literature, so you know a little bit about my background, which goes back, by the way, it was a national article written by a best-selling author who discovered me and then interviewed me and wrote the article. And copies of it are at the rear on the literature table. For those of you who want to know a little bit more about my origins and how I started writing federal legislation when I was 15 years old. And some of it I think you've heard of, such as creating the Peace Corps and also the Farm Bill for the United States of America. So those are my honors. But I've been writing legislation ever since at the federal, state, and local levels in 80 different cities throughout the United States. So I've devoted my entire life to politics, I guess. But I look at it as devoting my life to serve the people. And that's been my purpose the whole time. And I want to thank those of you who came up to me and thanked me for the fact that I did answer your email or your phone call and then helped you solve your problems. Because that's what I do. So you can find my phone number on the city website. It's right there. You should look for the city council. And I do answer those calls. And if you need help, oddly enough, I don't do it just with those in my district. I'll do it for any citizen because that's just who I am. And that's how I function. And my whole purpose in being here is not to put new regulations on you, but to find ways to do things that will help you and help you live a better life and help you live a more productive life and give you the opportunities to grow and to be what you want to be. Because that's the kind of society I believe we should have. And that's a kind of society I have worked to help create my entire life. And I'm still doing it now. And I will continue to do so when I get back in office come January. Start on my 26th year in office.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you all very much. We're going to take this challenge. To do some internal work here, give us about 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you again to the lodge for offering you coffee and the orders in the back. Please help yourself. And again, we'll do just a moment. We'll get starting all over again.
I feel so much better. Oh, it's on. Well,
And we'll be ready here in just a moment. Give us a moment here. I sincerely apologize. I had every intention of starting our forum today with the Pledge of Allegiance. I did not do that. But actually, Mr. Rivera, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Would. Position, I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Thank you very much for leading that. I got ahead of myself. I was so excited to get into the questions here. So before you, ladies and gentlemen, we have our District 3 candidates, Mr. Jeff Barr, Mr. Steve Gregory, and Mr. Michael Rivera. I am going to begin. These are the identical questions as we asked our candidates of District 1 and District 4. And question number 1. Oh, one moment, please. I sincerely apologize. We need to decide who is going to answer the first question. See, it is actually Mr. Rivera.
Holy smoke.
And I think this is what you get when you sit right next to me. So please share why you have chosen to run for office.
Well, first of all, this is someone.
Yes, yes,
It's on.
it's on, we can hear you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for everybody being here. God bless you all. You know, when Ben Franklin left the Continental Congress the first time, let's Franklin, we have a we have help. We have Republic enemies help. So that's why, because I feel it's my civic responsibility to run for office. I feel it's a responsibility of all of us to participate by voting and by participating in your local government. Because ultimately, as we move forward in the city, and we have some significant issues facing us as we move forward in the city, we want to preserve this beautiful place we call home, El Paso Robles. As we move forward, as we look at what our future is now, you know, what do I have, 15, 20 years if God blesses me? We're leaving this to our children, to our grandchildren. And we need to ensure that we're doing everything in our power to leave a good quality of life for each one of them. You know, my passion, people mistake my passion for other things, but I'm very passionate about the place I live. I've been involved in civic opportunities, civic responsibilities for many years of my life. I took a time out and now I'm back. And yes, I want to be the next councilman for the city of El Paso Robles.
Thank you. Mr. Gregory.
First of all, thank you for having this event. I like the way it's working, it's very well done. The reason why I want to run again, I spent most of my life here. I raised my family here. I married my lovely wife here, Dawn, Johnson. And I just want to give back what the city's given to me. I want to continue to honor our small town traditions. I believe in keeping Paso Robles a place where families want to raise their children, continue to bring benefits to the citizens, in addition to working on all the things we do in the city. concerts in the park, Pioneer Day, New Year's Eve celebrations, 4th of July, and lighting up the downtown park. Those are all things that are a little different and really nice for our community, and I think it's really important. I work really very, very hard as a councilman, put a lot of hours in. It has been my honor to represent the city of Paso Robles for 5 years on the planning commission, 10 years on the city council, 4 of which were for Mayor Pro Tem. This is my life. This is our family's home, and I want to protect it. I want to protect it with full police and fire. I want to continue to work on the roads. We're doing a really good job on that. We spent $78 million just on E12 funds in the last 12 years. And I think it's really important to protect our quality of life, the quality of decision making at the city council, and to make good choices. And I've spent my life on the council, much of my life in the government on the council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, my name is Jeff Carr, for City Council, because I love Paso Robles. I adopted Paso Robles as my home, coming here for many years. So when I retired, I could have moved anywhere in the world, honestly, and I chose Paso Robles. And I've also enjoyed city government. I mean, government in itself is, especially U.S. government, it was, creation that is looked at, throughout the world and admired. And city government is like the base, is like right down there with the basics. I mean, that's the basic government. It's probably the closest thing to natural government that you're going to find. It's people, it's interaction. And so I wanted to get involved in the city government of the city that I adopted. And unfortunately, I found it difficult to get involved in the city government. I didn't find the relationship between the city council and the city and the public to be what I was used to. It didn't seem to be working. It seemed a little bit broken, and it seemed to hit its pinnacle with the parking issue. And for a lot of people, that was such a widespread issue that it involved so many people that it seemed to really raise the level of things. And so I got involved, and I still got involved in other aspects of government and tried to look at it too. And I just found that, possibly I think I could do something to help. And that's why I've come to run the city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, question number 2. We'll start with you, Mr. Gregory. You started the first one, correct? Yes. Okay, I-24 is a hot topic right now. What is your position on this measure and why?
So I fully support I-24. And I just want to give a quick history. I-24 is a replacement for E12. E12 was passed back in 2012. And in the last 12 years, we've spent $78 million on the roads in this town. And it was also supervised by an oversight committee that are made of 9 citizens. And it is a general tax. It was a general tax. I-24 is a general tax. And I'm supportive because we need those funds to repair our roads. So I'm not supportive of lending money against the tax. What I'm supportive of is finding other ways to provide money for roads with this tax, like sharing some of the funding from J20, which is our one-cent sales tax, like getting grants from the state of California or the federal government to build and help fix our roads, and to tighten our belt in other areas where we can do that. But I'm absolutely opposed to trying to finance against those funds. So it's a really important issue to me. If I-24 passes, we keep it as a half-cent sales tax. That will help us repair our roads well into the future. There's no sunset clause, and it's really important for us to have that tax. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I-24. I had mixed feelings about I-24. The city does need the revenue. It's an extension of it. But the city has presented this in a way that has just put me between a rock and a hard place. You just don't know what to do. The city needs the revenue, but here they put up something with no plan on really. They tell people it's for roads, and that's what we need it to be for. We need the money for roads. but they don't have any plan for it. They talk about a loan, even though now Steve Gregory says he's not into a loan, but it was pretty much that was supposed to be the plan. But it was a vague idea of a loan. They gave us no details of what they plan to do with a loan, what it might cost the citizens, what roads they might do. They're talking $350 million of road repairs, and we don't know what the priorities are on that. We don't even know what's in that 350 million unless you see that road in front of your house and you know that you hope it's in there. But as at the moment, there's no guarantee that your road is going to get fixed any faster than it has been for the last 20 years. But so that's what bothers me about this. The city had a chance to present this as a good plan to fix the roads, don't have a sunset, or even if they had a 25-year plan for the road, 25-year sunset on. Don't just have this forever tax. But at the same time, I know the city needs revenue. And instead of a great plan, we're getting a few scare tactics. We're going to have to cut back services. They threaten us with cutbacks in police and fire. And that's not the way to sell the sales tax. So you're going to have to decide for your own on this one. But we do need the revenues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry, I've got to say this. I've been sitting for a while. I-24. I'm totally in support of it, with one caveat. That it goes 100% to roads. But that's not the way they wrote it. And it amazes me that I'm hearing my opponent now say he's not for leveraging a loan against us. I want everybody to listen to this. This is very important. We're $124 million in debt. The word has been that we want to leverage these dollars from I-24 to float another $50 or $60 million loan. That would put us $180 million in debt. Now, I don't think of pulling credit cards or borrowing to prosperity is a good idea. That's a bad idea. You're talking about public safety. With a debt that large, and we're already seeing it happen in the city, the hospitality industry is already starting to falter. The wine industry is faltering. If we lose revenues, guess what's going to happen? Police and fire are going to be on the chopping block. We have to be very deliberate and very careful about the way we move forward. If I-24 were completely directed towards roads, I'd say fine, good, and let's find other resources in order to accelerate them. But that's not the way it is. And my opponent has been talking about leveraging those monies for a while now. Now it's suddenly a different story. I have a problem with that.
Thank you. Question number 3, which will start with you, Mr. Hart. With 60% of Paso Robles population being under 50 years of age, what are the biggest challenges they face and how will you address this?
Well, yeah, as far as, I guess the older range of that, I think probably jobs and housing is a big issue. Jobs, number one, I feel, I could never live, I'm a retired engineer, I could never live and work here. There were no jobs for me, so I had to go where the jobs were. And I think that there are moves right now, and I think the city is more poised to be able to add more types of jobs, diverse jobs like tech jobs, a little more other jobs that will pay better and will employ more people. I think the city could do more to improve the stimulus for just our local trades and our small businesses. Finishing the roads, get back to the roads again. Clean up those roads in some of those areas like Paso Robles Street and Commerce Street. Go a long way to get some investment into those areas, which I think is very much needed. We need more of those types of industrial type of jobs and industrial buildings that people can move into and use. In the younger ranges too. I think the city has done a lot with the people in some of the younger ages. The city library and the community services has a lot of things for younger people to do. They've actually it looks like they've been trying to supplement some of the things that haven't been coming in from private industry. because we don't have a bowling alley anymore, but we have wine tasting. So they've been trying to offset a lot of that. And that's been a requirement. The city's had to pick that up and do that. And I think they're gonna have to continue that until we can get more of their businesses in there to handle that. Thank you.
I'd be happy to. With 60% of Paso Robles' population being under 50 years of age, what are the biggest challenges they face? And how will you address this?
Great question. Thank you. Upward mobility in our employment ladder is a very big problem. Our young people, we ought to be focusing on them. We've been focusing on hospitality and the wine industry. I say get out of the way, let them go do their thing. They're doing fine. We have tremendous opportunities in this state. And some of that can filter into the Paso Robles by diversifying our economy and creating upwardly mobile employment opportunities. I was very involved in the spaceport, Denver. I helped to deliver the initial seed money that kept that thing going. And now you see SpaceX launching satellites out of there all the time. So I have no problem with spaceports. However, we need to look at other diversification, agribusiness technology. Our economic development director is here, and I want to plant some seeds. Upwardly mobile agribusiness technology, including robotics, including other technologies that'll help our agribusiness community. We should be a center for that. For God's sake, we have Cal Poly right down the street. We also have some opportunities to create manufacturing in robotics and other things to help our agribusiness community move forward. And there's a big push for that right now. I think if we were just thinking out of the box and being more creative and not being locked into this idea that we're a one-trick pony town, I think we're going to have great opportunities going forward for our young.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Thank you. So the biggest problem, there's a couple problems with our youth under 50. Higher paying jobs should be one of our highest priorities. We have an economic development person to help bring people past Robles. The spaceport is a wonderful opportunity for that. That is well on its way. But we need to have a well-rounded economic development plan to bring head of household jobs. That's what we need. In order for people to live here, they need to come here and be able to make a living. Then on top of that, we need to be able to have affordable housing for those people. They need to be able to buy a home and live in the community they work. We need to keep our people and residents close to us. But the economic development part of it's really key, and the diversity of the economic development. Also to keep supporting our existing businesses. We have some amazing businesses like in the agribusiness out there, the Andros family. We need to support all our local businesses and keep those businesses alive. Another thing I think is really important for our group under 50 years old is continue providing public recreation. It's called the quality of life, youth sports, and also childcare. I think childcare is a really important issue. And the city is going to protect the home occupation for childcare. And I think it's really important that we help focus on that and enable those people that want to provide it to be able to do that job. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 4. You'll begin this one, Mr. Rivera. How can a divided city council come to consensus?
Thank you for that question. This is an adversarial process, okay? And the way we get to the end is to discuss things and hammer things out. Sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes it takes, standing by your position or giving a little bit here or expressing your point of view and explaining why. The why is very important. Sometimes we listen to staff and we don't ask why. And then we have people that want a rubber stamp. I'm not a rubber stamp, I assure you. I'll ask questions. And when I ask questions, people might get a little bit flustered because they have to answer the questions. I'm a businessman. I've been in the technology and medical industry for years. Believe me, I would have never survived had I not been able to answer questions. And believe me, I had some pretty hard questions at times. So our staff and our city needs to be able to not only ask questions of the staff, but we need to be able to answer the questions of the public and listen. Because this city has not listened to this community for a long time. And Roblins have been the last ones who have been thought about in this city. When I ran for mayor, believe me, my positions haven't changed. I'm the same. Always remember somebody telling me, remember, tell the truth because you won't have to remember what you told the last person. So I stayed with that. And believe me, I think this is an adversarial process. We need to hammer things out. And at the end of the day, we'll come to good conclusions if we listen.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a really good question because we do have a divided council sometimes. But the most important part of it to me is the democratic process, how the information comes to us, quality of the staff report from the staff, full attendance and comment by the public, so that we hear from everybody that's involved in projects. And then you come back to a dissertation on the council. And one of the best ways I feel to solve the divided council or help with the divided council is to talk over issues. And at the council discussion time, you come or try to come to compromise. You reach out. You have to compromise, sometimes and collaborate to get the ideas to get through. Every issue that comes before us is not a simple yes or no vote. It can be complicated, and we need to get to the bottom of that. Another thing we can do too is delay it, ask staff for more information, come back with the concerns of the councilman, public, and bring back the information we need to make a good decision. That is the cleanest and easiest way to deal with the divided council. Mr. Bosch and I probably vote usually along the same lines, but he's a very good negotiator and he always has his points. And to me, listening to those points and making a good decision on what he has to say that's fair to the people, I'll be okay with that. I want solutions. I don't want a divided council. I want solutions, and I'm not a rubber stamper. I think for myself, and I don't talk to anybody on the council prior to meetings. Thank you.
Yeah, conflicted counsel. Sometimes conflict is good. It is not necessarily a problem as long as there's a path to a consensus. I mean, a lot of times I've seen it'll be a 3-2 or whatever, a 4-1, where a little bit of more time might have been able to make it a unanimous decision. And that should be a goal, I would think. But it's not going to happen all the time. And there will be conflicts, and they won't always agree. But the problem is sometimes those overflow into the next meetings. It's like recently I've seen this, and it's not good. Make your decision and live with it. Don't be disgruntled the next meeting, and don't start, bashing somebody with the next meeting for something that happened before. If the council has a problem with the performance of a council member, some of that you got to take offline, like any business would do. You don't scold people in public. You go and you go into private and you talk to people like adults, and they'll understand if they can. So some of the stuff we've seen in the council lately has been completely unacceptable. I would hope that would end. I know it will end if I'm on the council. And but certain conflict is okay. I agree with some of the comments about, I think we need more public comment before the council meeting even happens. The staff needs to do a little more public comment, get the input, present it. And that won't deny anybody public comment during the meeting, but it helps set the stage a little bit about what the public is thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 5, and this is Mr. Gregory. There are 325 vacation rentals in Paso. We are building over 800 new hotel rooms. How will you commit to preserve Paso's character with all of the tourism?
So I have a lot of ideas about vacation rentals, obviously, but The first and foremost thing I think we should do with our vacation rentals is just eliminate R1 zones for vacation rentals. Slowly weed it down and get it off the page, because it's the most counterproductive thing I think we have, is having vacation rentals in home areas. The other part on vacation rentals is, if you eliminate R1 zoning for vacation rentals, it tends to stay around downtown, where it's a little more dense and a little less R1 zoning, more like R2 or T3M zoning. So I think that's really important. But one of the questions I want to talk about are hotels. I come from the hotel business. How do you make hotels more friendly for downtown? And how do you make them more friendly for the city? And that is, you make Paso Robles a walking town. Like you have some of these new hotels coming in. So you emphasize walking. And then we ask all our outside of the area hotels to get shuttles, bring people to town, because it's the congestion and the number of cars and people that make people uncomfortable. Oxford Suites is the only hotel using shuttles, and they come all the time, drop people off in our restaurants, and it's a great way to bring people in and out of town, and it solves a lot of the parking issues. And I think for quality of life, also these hotels like Ayers and others will offer discounts for locals and be helpful there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. There are 325 vacation rentals in Paso Robles. We are building over 800 new hotel rooms. How will you commit to preserve Paso's character with all of that?
Well, I think a lot of the character, unfortunately, did change during short-term rentals. I mean, it just happens. That was another city conflict. I still, to be honest, we have no clue how they got into our. Told there was a loophole somewhere, but to this day, I have not seen what that loophole is. And but they grew into R1, and it has caused some conflict and perhaps some quality of life for some people. Now, the hotels coming in like this, I'm very curious to see what that does to the short-term rentals. Are they going to still have the same high demand? A lot of the short-term rental demand, I think, was driven by the fact there weren't a lot of quality hotels. So I think the dynamic might change a little bit as it is. As far as the hotels, I mean, I'm not too happy with some of the recent approvals on the hotels. It seems like every hotel just can't get enough parking, and there's not be more parking in the downtown. And we have nobody's doing anything about it, right now, because we've had two council members that say they don't want to talk about parking. And so we have to do something about parking, and we're not going to talk about paid parking again, but we have to look at parking and look at what we're doing with the new hotels and dumping more cars out. As far as quality of life, I think an idea of making the town more mobile for bicycles and people who walk, whatever is great. If people want to do that, I think we could do whatever we can to stimulate that type of change. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think this is instructive. My opponent has a portfolio of vacation rentals, and there's a number of city council members that have vacation rentals. Now, God bless them. They're making a good amount of money. They're doing well. Great. However, does that really ensure the livability of our downtown corridor? I don't think so. Nobody is going to end up living except for visitors. I mean, Pismo Beach, not far away, they did the same thing. Look at what happened to them. Nobody lives in that downtown corridor anymore. They're all vacation rentals. We need to stop that. For full disclosure, my wife and I have a home share. We live in our home. We invite people into our home. I think that's a different animal. We have way too much non-owner occupied vacation rentals. We need to change that. We need to stop that. We need to reduce that. It seems interesting to me that this explosion of vacation rentals and the grandfathering of these vacation rentals happened under my opponent's watch. I think that's not good. I think we need to change that, fix that. And if I become your city council member in the 3rd district, I assure you, we'll revisit that. we'll talk about that. Now, whether I can get others to agree with me is another question. But I don't think the way we're going now does anything to enhance the viability of community, of our beautiful city. It's tearing the heart out of our community, our soul. We've got to stop.
Thank you. Question number 6, and Mr. Carl, this will start with you. How would you support and provide workforce housing in the city? Housing for firemen, teachers, policemen, etc.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we do have requirements for affordable housing, and somewhere in there, it addresses workforce housing. Workforce housing is just a special name given, I guess, to this application. But we do have affordable housing being built. It's a lot more than will be built. I assume it's a requirement of the state to build it. And so it is online to get built. But we do have requirements right now for police. I guess that is a problem. I assume not just for housing. Housing is the big cost when we come into the Paso Robles. This, I understand, is keeping us from hiring police. Now, as a city, we can do things like, get housing built or actually provide deed restricted housing. For instance, school districts do that. Cal Poly does that. They have a housing development across the street from Cal Poly that's deed restricted. And it's only for city staff or Cal Poly staff. And so that's an option, but that's big and that's a big endeavor. That's, for any city, I would think. I would hope that we could get more of the right type of housing built. That would be the first thing. We are seeing a lot of some of the more expensive homes, even though some of those we still need more of those, according to the state. And so I think if we can work more on getting the right type of housing, possibly we could look at our zoning laws that require certain types of restrictions on housing that require certain size of the house to be built, along with others to make sure that they're more affordable. And then we can look at some incentives. The city's already put some incentives on loans for loans for the police. But I hear they're hitting some pretty strict competition from other cities as well. It's not just our problem here. So we can look at ways to improve the loan situation for people who want to buy, but then renters too. We need more people, more places for people to rent. So not everybody's going to want to buy a home. And I think we can make sure we get more affordable rentals in here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to the question.
Could you
Sure. How would you support and provide workforce housing in the city? Housing for firemen, teachers, policemen, etc.
Well, that's a great question, and I'll tell you right now. Would somebody explain to me what affordable housing is? Because I can't really understand that because I've been hearing this for years. And what is affordable housing? Well, it's whatever people can afford to live in your community. And I'm going to tell you, most of our workers here are in the hospitality business, and none of this is affordable for them. You can't say a $2,500 a month rental, 2-bedroom, or $2,800 a month rental here in town is affordable. They're shoehorning people into those places, and this is not good. We need to think outside of the box again, okay? We have 20 million people in Los Angeles, many of them retiring. Guess where they're coming? We've got millions in the Bay Area. Guess where they're coming? We have a 55 plus development. When those houses come up for sale, even before they're sold, they're selling for $850. Because people are bringing cash here and they're paying cash for these homes. That's not going to stop anytime soon. What we have to do is we have to think outside of the box for affordable housing. And that means that we have to use every tool in our tool chest. Now we have San Miguel and we have Shannon, not far. They need shopping. We need to work with our county supervisor to get them some of the opportunities to provide shopping in those locations. And I could go on about this ad nauseum, but all I'm saying is that we need to start thinking in different ways about providing housing for the people that go to work here.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. How would you support and provide workforce housing in the city? housing for firemen, teachers, policemen, etc.
Thank you. So there's a couple of really good examples of products I'd like to see, and this is going to be one of my top 3 priorities. In the city of Atascadero, they built a project called Dove Creek. So what they did in the city of Atascadero, they built smaller land, smaller residential living area, and they were able to keep the cost of the housing down. And then in addition to that, what they did is they adjusted the financing so the interest rates were low enough for people to afford the payment. There's another project like this down in San Luis Obispo. They're doing the same thing, smaller square footage, they're building up, and people can afford to buy their homes and be here as professionals, planners or policemen or firemen. We need to provide that, and it's very, very critical to our success here. Affordable housing doing a good job. But when it comes to this is something we need to really focus on as a community because we need our professionals. And as we develop more head of household jobs, we want people to be able to afford to live here and buy their homes here. And the only way we're going to do it is to offer a product like that and work with a developer like Nick Tompkins. He's doing it down in Napoleon right now, same kind of a thing he's doing. So I think it's really important. Smaller footprint, smaller living is a great way to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Vera, you'll start with this question. What can be done to reduce the ever-growing and burdensome regulations hampering small businesses and raising the cost of doing business and building?
That is a really good question. Why don't we start by asking the businesses? That would be a good first step. I don't think anybody's really sat down and said, hey, what are we doing to inhibit your ability to grow your business? What are we doing as a city to encumber you? How are we not doing what we should be doing to enhance your ability to grow and be prosperous? Has anybody asked that question? Have we done the work? Have we worn out the shoe leather to find out what our small businesses are having to encounter? You know, it's great to create regulation because somebody in some room can go ahead and say, well, we don't want them to do this, that, or the other. The ideas that were coming out of the planning commission as to how they were going to restrict certain businesses in their houses. Many of those things are none of their business whatsoever. And why we're stepping into that role is beyond me. I'm a businessman. I want businesses to grow. I want little businesses to become bigger businesses and bigger businesses become big, big businesses. That's my goal. I want success in our community. And without asking them how we're inhibiting their progress and their growth and their ability to be a bigger, better business, I think it's the first step. You got to ask the question.
Amen.
Thank you. Mr. Gregory.
Thank you. So during COVID, we saw our worst regulations from the state of California we've ever seen. And what our town did was, I thought, quite brilliant. And we refused to abide by their rules. Between our city manager and our police chief, we continued to do business. It was the hardest thing we've ever done as a business for my wife's restaurant, where we had to just start all over again and figure out how the heck we're going to survive. And every time we had that issue, we were able to not get arrested for serving people food in our setting. And then you see the apartments that came in. That was a good solution. The other thing I like to recommend on this one is City of Paso Robles is a beer-friendly business town. So in other words, if you want to do a brewery here, we have it all set up, ready to come in and put your brewery in, take the sewage, everything. So it's all lined up. Our economic development team, who's one guy right now, but he's out there visiting with people all the time on business issues. So what do we do to help people downtown in their restaurants? How do you get better? And so specials on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, whatever it is, we need to get out there and help people fix their problems and that. For new businesses coming into town, we have to keep the regulations down But more importantly, we need stewardship through the process from the city that accelerates in that process. Accelerates in understanding the problems, what businesses do, and what they need to complete their business here. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a very important question. I do wish I had more specifics, like the other panel asked, because I'd like, yeah, which specific requirements are you saying are the problem? Because there are a lot of state requirements, and some of them are justified. There's environmental requirements. There's, waste. We're getting a lot of new requirements on how to handle waste, food waste, and such. So those all get expensive, and they add to the cost. Our water costs money too. So all those types of things add to the cost of running a business, the same as they do owning a home. I think so. We have to keep better control on those costs, and I think the city could do a lot. And unfortunately, that's one issue where I think the city does not, really go through some of those costs with a fine tooth comb, and should. I've had some conflicts in the past on those. We do have work on development fees for the builders, and some of those have been reduced. But those are a tough trade-off. We have the fire department need money for fire, money for police, but we have to get those down to what we can actually bear, and not put a burden on anybody. As far as I think we need to do more to promote more businesses, and maybe in the zoning too. I know in the past, a lot of the industrial and a lot of businesses were moved out of downtown intentionally because they wanted to make it more of a tourism area. So a lot of those businesses honestly don't have a lot of places to go anymore. The industrial areas have been shrunk down so much. I think we need to do more in that area, and not just big warehouses, but smaller places for startups and people who are doing skilled work.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. This next question, we allowed 2 minutes for the previous group, and so we'll allow 2 minutes as well. Mr. Gregory, this question you'll lead. What committees are you on, or what city meetings do you currently attend, or would you want to be on? For example, planning commission, library, parks, youth, senior, airport, etc.
Sure, thank you. So currently, I'm sitting on the airport commission, and I've been there 10 years, usually mostly as an alternate. The Housing Constraints Committee, I'm the chair of that committee that overlooks constraints in housing and issues for people building homes. Senior Advisory Committee, which is one of my favorite. Go out there, I'm with Mr. Bosch. We have a party with those guys every time we go out. It's a wonderful group of people, and they ask really good questions. So, and Mr. Bosch and I keep cleaning up after each other. It's all good. The Travel Paso, the representative for the city for Travel Paso. I'm the representative for Visit Slow, the city of Paso Robles. I'm also the vice chair of LAFCO, which is the agency that oversees all annexations to the city. I'm also the specific plan liaison, so Steve Martin and myself used to meet with all the specific plans, helping them in final negotiations of that, bring it to council for all questions. HSOC, which is this committee by the county, there's 38 members on this group, and we meet every other month about homeless issues and how do we get ahead. I'm on the ECHO Community Committee, looking at problems and issues they have locally with the ECHO Center down in Motel 6. And I'm liaison with the Planning Commission. I also have out on the HBA. And there's a lot of other groups that I've been involved with. This is where I'm at right now. And the commissions just are so important to our city because there's so many aspects of our city. And we just have endless committees, and Mayor Martin and Mr. Bosch, we're all over the place. So those are my committees. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I started getting involved in the committees after going to many city council meetings. Obviously, I started getting involved in committees. And one of those was the Housing and Constraints and Opportunities Committee. I think Mr. Gregory calls himself a chair, that I believe he's a liaison. And I think some of the things I saw in that meeting actually got me, so I will always be that, because there was some stuff that they still don't have bylaws. Nobody's ever terminated a member, no members have been given an opportunity. That committee is by target. I'm sorry, it needs fixed. That committee needs fixed. It's not good for the public. I mean, they do good work, I'll give them that, but they don't always do good work. Because the committee depends on who's there, who shows up. Just a change in the balance, change that whole committee. And they really should have bylaws in place, but for some reason, it just doesn't happen here. I go to the planning commission quite a bit because I got involved in some of the things there. I find that a very interesting committee. And so that was also related to the HCOC, so that's how I got involved in that. I haven't been to the airport. I went to the airport discussions when they had the ad hoc, because that was very interesting for the contract that they had approved and just recently signed. That was one that I would like to be on possibly, or at least I should like to attain more because it's got some things that I think, some concerns that I have about it. I was a member of the parking ad hoc committee. That was another committee. You ask anybody that was on it and you'll get a couple of wild answers about how that committee was completely hijacked. People made up their own rules along the way. And again, that was another reason why I decided to run for council against Mr. Gregory. So because of those types of actions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been going to city council meetings for 14 years. And the reason I started going to those council meetings was because I wanted to watch the progress of what was going on here. Because I left a community that made a lot of mistakes. And over the last several years is the reason why I started to run for office in this city is because I started to see a lot of the mistakes that were made in a community that I lived in not far from here. And I just want you to know, I've been a parks commissioner, I've been a planning commissioner, I chaired the private industry council. I know how government works. I understand how to deal with issues in government. I know what not to do. I've had a lot of experience in seeing what not to do. And I see this city walking down the path. And it's kind of like the Thelma and Louise movie, remember the metal off the cliff? That's what I'm worried about with this city. I served on the 7-Eleven committee in the school district. Chris Bausch was having issues with that school district and the policies here. I served on the Measure M committee because I'm a fiscal hawk. I do not like wasting money because the taxpayers work hard for their money. So that's why I served on that committee. I saw Chris go through literal hell serving and trying to do the right thing for the school district. We finally broke that juggernaut over a period of time. Thanks to great people like Dorian Baker. What a wonderful person doing such great work. So I've been involved in government for a long time. And the reason why I'm more involved now and why I ran for mayor 2 years ago is because this city has some serious issues that they have to address. So we can provide a great opportunity for our young people.
Thank you. Next question. Mr. Carr, this will begin with you. What can be done about the homeless population? Excuse me. Yes, what can be done about the homeless population that does not want help from people such as Echo? The example given here is drug abusers.
Yeah, that's a tough question there. A lot of people already tried to answer it without answering the question, but outside of Echo, yeah, that's a tough question. There's not a lot we can do for some of those people. If we don't have the tools and the power to do some of those things. I mean, even their families will tell you that. They've worked with their children for years and years, and they're not able to do anything anymore, to the point where they say, just don't call me. It's sad, but it's the way it happens with the people we're actually talking about in this question. Echo does great work, and I think we need more of that. For those people that do want the help, but for those that don't, I think we need some we need some law changes. There was talk, I don't know exactly where that's at now, about certain types of medical holds that might be able to help us with drug treatments. And being stricter on, when we do arrest somebody on a crime and they have to have drug treatment, that they actually have to have that drug treatment. It's a tough question. I think we need to work more with the county and the state and express to them what our concerns are. We need to have that interaction and get help from them, other communities that are doing things that have, like it was already mentioned, have worse problems than we do. But we have to work this problem before it gets worse. And I think we need to seek out their help on this too. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. You are.
Great question. I have a very good friend, Ron Cupp. He's been working in that thing for a long time, years. Ron's a Navy commander, retired. He would take his truck and pull literally tons of material out of the riverbed all the time by himself. And, sometimes you need tough love in a family. But is it compassionate to allow people to live in the riverbed? It is not compassionate. We have to say you can't live in the riverbed. And if you live in if you in the riverbed, we have to take a very aggressive approach in the riverbed. It's an environmental disaster too. We need to bring fish and game. We need to be applying to the state, telling them this is an environmental disaster. Just think about the human waste alone that is happening in that riverbed. The amount of abuse that's probably going on that you have no idea it's happening. There are people with mental health issues that are being preyed upon by people in that riverbed. I know that for a fact. Is that compassionate? We have a big facility just south of here. It's called the men's college. And I'm not suggesting we put them in prison, but I'm suggesting they're closing down. They have spent tens of millions of dollars on that facility that they have closed down and abandoned. And what we need to do is we need to start thinking out of the box again. And we need to start looking at other alternatives to house people, especially people that are very difficult to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Repeat the question, please.
Absolutely. What can be done about the homeless population that does not want help from people such as Echo? The example given here is drug abusers.
That's a very, very good question. So I think one of the things that you're starting to see happen is that Echo has a program where it's a step-up program where people that go to Echo have to enter a 90-day program. You have to work your way through it and get housed. And that process now is spread all the way across the county. All the homeless facilities are now on a 90-day program. It's working. So it's starting to erode into some of these difficult to handle people. But what do we do with people like that? And it's called the Grants Pass ruling by the Supreme Court now has allowed us to move people out of river. The state of California, Governor Newsom doesn't want any more encampments. So we have to come up with a creative way to remove those encampments and get these people either housed into programs or figure out where they want to go. It's not an easy question. But what's happening is we're starting to see more and more people in that hardcore homelessness to start going into homes. That's what's starting to happen. But in the meantime, we have a real problem on our hands because we're going to start cleaning out encampments and we have to have a place for people to go. And we're working on that right now as a city and we're trying to figure it out. Caseworkers would be a really good idea. Mental health triage, addiction triage center would be a wonderful solution to that. So we can take some of these people that are having those issues and getting them help so they can come back to life. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, last question. This is Mr. Rivera. We'll start with you. What is your position on term limits for the city council? And what length of term would be agreeable to you?
Well, I think that term limits, as has been said before, should be a mechanism of people voting people out. However, I would have no problem with two-term limit, no problem whatsoever. If you can't get something done that you really want to get done in a positive way for the city, then I think that you're probably not doing well. You're probably failing. So maybe you ought to groom somebody to help come some way. See, I just want everybody to understand, this isn't a career for me. I'm doing this because I want to help the city. I think I have enough experience to know what not to do and enough creativity to think about ways that we can do things different. So term limits is, I don't know, it's kind of like, people want term limits, fine, but I think the people need to get engaged and to decide whether term limits is appropriate for the person that's representing them. And I do think that we have certain members of our council that have been here too long. I think we need new faces, new ideas. I think they've made careers of their positions, and I think that's not good. I think we need fresh ideas and new eyes on things. We need different ideas, but there's a reason, a background reason why they want to hold on to power. There's something else going on. I think I know what it is, I'm not going to say, but I would suggest that people start thinking about that. Term limits, yeah, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you. So, I'm indifferent on this subject. I think sometimes term limits are good. It's really up to the people of the city to help us, guide us through that process. I think 3 terms is good for the city. That's about it, if you're gonna do limits. Sometimes like Jordan Cunningham, where he's running in December, he had to run a campaign every 2 years. It was ridiculous. And then there's a 3-term limit for him. So I think it depends on the situation, but it's really up to the people. It's up to our community what they want to see for term limits, and I would support whatever we come up with on that. Thank you.
Yeah, term limits. I've been in cities where they tried to do that. And it was on I won't go into the whole story, but I can tell you, I would say it's impossible to get a standing city council to vote in this term. I would be surprised if that ever happened. So it would have to take some type of a petition or a vote to make that happen. I would be all for it. I don't have an issue with it. I think a 2-term is a fine, 2 4-year term is fine. I think we need change. I think we need new voices. I think we need new people involved. When you're in a council for a long time, there's a little bit of the buddy system that goes on, and you don't see it all the time, but it becomes very day to day. You're working with the same guys all the time, and you get into a routine where I think a new person can really break that up, and it's a good thing for the public. It's a good thing for people. So I would actually support term limits. I just hard thing is getting them in there. And it would be, yeah, I think that 8 years is plenty. I plan, I don't see doing this more than 1 term actually. And part of if you go to my website, you see I'm already trying to put plans in to try to get somebody to take my place. I want to start working with people to help me and try to and learn learn the nuts and bolts of what we're doing, try to get them involved and interested, and try to make some changes so it's not such a burden. Being a council member now with 5-hour meetings is a little bit crazy, and we shouldn't be doing that. And I'll try to change some of that part if I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more.
No, we are not taking any more because those were the same 10 questions we asked the first set of candidates. Now we are going to go to closing statements.
What are we doing?
Going to closing statements.
Okay. It's right with me.
We actually are starting with you. Yes, that is correct. And you do have 2 minutes, so give me just one moment here to adjust accordingly, please.
So again, I want to thank the chamber for this event today. And I just want to thank the community for everything they do with us at the city council. I've worked really hard on the city council. I'm on a lot of committees. I help a lot of people personally with their issues with their businesses and their homes and things that are going wrong in their lives here. But I think most importantly for myself, it's about being accountable. I'm fiscally responsible. We do have a balanced budget with a surplus, and we have ever since I've been on the committee, on the council. And we continue to work in that vein because it's really important to protect the future of our town. You need the financial capability to move ahead. I want to make sure people understand that our police and fire are critical to us. J20 is very important. I want to keep supporting the police and the fire. And I-24 is a continuation, it's a general tax. And the same thing that we did for E12, we'll do for I-24. We will commit 100% of those funds to roads. And we have the liaison committee for the oversight of supplemental tax to do that. And they did it very successfully for the last 12 years, and we'll do it from here on out as a committee. I also want to focus on economic development. I think economic development is one of our key important issues. We need to continue to support our city businesses. We need to get new businesses in town for head of household jobs. It's critical for us to be able to continue to thrive as a city and do that. The other item I think that's really important is problem solving and collaborative efforts. I feel I'm really good at that, doing that. I like to work with people. I'm on a lot of different committees, and I'm approachable anytime, anywhere. And people, I have my phone number on all my business cards, my hardware back there. But I just want to say I'm a positive candidate for this city, and I want to continue to see our city thrive and continue. It's a wonderful, wonderful city, and I want to keep working for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carter.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank the chamber and the public here for sitting through us talking all this time. It's great. I appreciate that a lot. I'm very happy to be here. I didn't necessarily think of running for council when I came to Paso Robles, but I saw a need that I thought that I could fill with the blessing of the public and do a good job and do a better job than's been done in the past. I'm an objective person. I don't have the conflicts of interest that have caused so many problems lately at some of our votes. I don't own short-term rentals. I can be objective on both sides of that. I have a background of working as a system engineer where I work with diverse groups, whether it be in a company environment or between different companies. I know how to work with people and get things done. I listen. I'm a good listener. I know how to solve the problems. I mentioned before, I worked as an ombudsman where I had to listen to people in very serious situations that they didn't necessarily want to be in, and they had no one else to help them. And I was able to listen to them and give them the help they need. I respect the public, and I respect public involvement. I love Paso Robles, and I trust the city. I trust the people of Paso Robles to make good decisions. I don't need to sit up here on the council and tell you what you want. I want to know what the city residents want. I want to listen to the public. And you won't see me listening to dozens and dozens of people and then just ignoring you. It won't happen. If I do that, fire me right away because that's what you should do. I will respect the public, and I'll make sure that you have the type of government that respects you back. I've done my homework. I've been involved in the city matters for a long time now, for a number of years. I learned the ropes. I didn't just walk into town saying, "Oh, I want to be on the city council." I did my homework, and I think I'm ready to take on this job and do a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn and I have been on the Central Coast for 50 years, raised our kids here and our grandkids here. I care a lot about this city, as I believe these other two gentlemen do. However, I think we need to change. I think I have a proven record in everything I've participated in government and in business. I think I can be a positive impact. I've worked with very diverse people over the years and become very successful, both in government and in business. I believe in outcomes, not platitudes. We need to get things done. And our streets are one of the things we need to get things done on. And we need to be fiscally responsible. We're not very fiscally responsible here. We can't borrow our way to prosperity. We have to grow our economy. We have to be creative, and we can't be myopic in our views of business. We're a one-trick pony town. That has to stop. The wine and the hotel industry, they're slowing down. I don't know what's going to happen next year, but we need to tap the brakes and slow things down a bit here. We need to rethink our priorities. I think that many times people get locked into government and they just start thinking a certain way and they can't be diverted for some reason. It's like they have blinders on. I assure you, I won't have blinders on. And I assure you, as I work for the people of this city, I will work for you. I'll listen. I'll pay attention. And I'll make sure that your voices are heard. Because you are ultimately the reason why we exist, why we're here, why we're representing you. Because it is a representative republic. And the operative word there is representing you, the people. And I hope that you understand that this person, number one, won't make this a career. And number two, will work and do everything to help you and be fiscally accountable. Thank you for having me and thank you for your time.
Thank you, everybody, for your time this evening. I want to thank the candidates. This was a long time up here on the Princeton, and I apologize, but it's so important. And thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks again to the Elks Lodge for supporting us.